just wait another couple more minutes just in case anyone else wants to join.
Я думаю, что кто-то там, это глава чата, это журнал или что это? Ну, кто-то там лежит. Смотрит.
Are you on the muting, Sam? You are. Thank you. Okay. Couple more moments. Yeah. There we go. Alexander, your front page there. Hi Lucy, hi Trevor. Hi, good to see you. Okie dokie, let's kick off. I'm not sure why Alexander is right in the front there. It's very nice, but we'll need to change that around a little bit. I'll start. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming online this evening. We've just been talking about the number of weeks we've had now. I think, Bryan, you said, was it 15 weeks for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, I think it was 14. For us, it was 13. I'm sure everyone is very aware of how long they've all been in lockdown. As you know, COVID-19 has hugely affected both our personal and our working lives. As soon as the lockdown came to pass, those 3 months ago, we at Action Duchenne got on it straight away, basically, and we made sure that what we were providing for our families and the support that we were giving was in line with what was needed at the time. So we've made sure we use our resources really, really carefully to support you guys through COVID-19 and beyond. And part of that was to develop the Duchenne webinars to help support you and your families. We've also regularly updated the COVID-19 advice page for Duchenne specifically, and we're also contacting all of our families directly. So if you or your families get a phone call from Sam over the next few weeks, you'll understand where that's coming from. We want to make sure we can reach out and support everybody personally. So on to tonight. Bryan Purdue is here with us. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome him. Thank you so much, Bryan, for coming on and talking to everybody tonight. Bryan lives in Scotland, is 42 and lives with Duchenne. Bryan is a blog writer, artist, film lover, and dedicated family man. I understand you've been with your niece today on her 10th birthday. So enjoying the kind of relative new freedom of being obviously a little bit of lockdown release. So what we're going to do this evening, we try to make it a nice informal session. So pop your questions in the box. We will keep everyone on mute just because it gets a bit crazy if we have everyone off mute. If you have any questions, obviously just pop them into the box. And if it's easier for you to ask Bryan verbally, let me know, and we can obviously take you off mute if that's okay. So for now, Bryan, it's over to you. I'll have everybody completely in your hands, and Sam and I will be here if you need anything. So just shout. It's over to you.
Hi everybody, I'm Bryan. I'm 42 with Duchenne. If you want to ask me the questions, just let it know in the wee chat, if that's okay. Well, could you start with a question first?
Yes. So Bryan, tell us a little bit about your family, about your background and where you come from.
I'm from Gourock in Scotland, which is near Glasgow. I was diagnosed when I was 6, so I'm with my mum and dad.
So tell us about your niece and your siblings.
I've got one brother who's 53 years older than me, and I've got a niece, she's 10. and it's her birthday today, so I was overseeing her visiting. What else?
Do they live nearby you, Brian?
They live about 10 minutes away. I could tell you a bit about my life history a wee bit before we start the questions.
Please do. Give us a bit of a kind of an overview of your life and what you like to do and what your pastimes are.
Well, I went to university, got a degree in Business Information Technology. I worked for Aspirations for 5 years. I like football, go to films, spend time with my family, eating, just things like that.
Brian, how was it at uni? Can you take us through how kind of that worked? Did you have kind of PAs there?
Well, when I went, it was more fend for yourself kind of thing. It's not as good as that now. Like my pals helped me and I get transport arranged and things like that. So that's, but university are very good to help me arranging things and setting up what classrooms are used and things like that, and any help I needed, they were there to help straight away. So it was a good experience.
So were you living at home or did you live in the uni?
I stayed at my house because it was easier. It's only really half an hour away from university, so it's probably me and all my friends did it. Like stayed here, stayed at all the place and travelled up.
Okay. And I've just had a question come in. This is a good one. What is your favourite inspirational quote of all time and why? Cool. That's a good one.
I know what it is, but I'll need to look it up. I'll get back to that.
Okay. Have a think. So how was it working at Abbey National? Tell us about that.
It was good. I enjoyed being up in Glasgow and I enjoyed working for a while, apart from the stressful bit of it, but I quite like the piece of work, being more independent as I could.
What was stressful about it?
Just work stressful. That kind of work stressful.
Was it kind of behind the counter stuff?
No, it was the IT stuff. So it was.
Oh, the IT. Okay.
So it was like programming things.
So what were you programming?
Oh, boring bank stuff. Can't see. I can see Carol laughing there. And Laura's Jenkins video, I can see you laughing because Carol works with me. So she knows what it's like.
I think you can see some people that I can't. I'm gonna look at the gallery. Oh, there we go. That's it. So, I've had another question come through. This is a good one. So Emma said, what was the biggest challenge being at university in terms of having a physical disability?
I think at the time getting transport arranged, which was a bit of a fight because the budget was, I think it was only £3,000 to get your transport, and we fought to get it up. I think it's up, we're up to 10. I don't know what it is now, but we had to fight to get it up a good bit. I think the problems I have, which if you go to university now, it's a lot different, was just like doors and things like that, and opening doors, lifts, and all sorts of things were the difficult bits.
So it wasn't just as straightforward as arriving and kind of it was all on the level. Did you had to access different kind of floors? Okay.
Yeah. And lots of big heavy doors.
So was there somebody? So you said there was someone to help you. Was that through the uni, or
No,
was that?
I raised that myself.
Okay.
And one of my pals helped me for a year for a couple of years. My best pal, he helped me as well, so that was good.
Right. And that Emma's just said as well, did you have any adaptations at work?
Well, at first my desk was put in blocks, but eventually I got a wind-up desk and different things. Well, it took a wee while, but I got adaptations eventually.
And is that something that you felt you had to fight for, or were they quite good at kind of asking what you needed and making adaptations based on what you needed?
I'm quite good at getting what they needed. It just took a wee while sometimes, I think, to get stuff in right, as with most things.
I wonder, we've got a webinar next week with an employment advisor, and also with a lady who deals with she's like a job board. She runs a job board for people with physical disabilities, and I wonder if she'll have a list of people that are good employers who how would you rate kind of Abbey National on that?
They were good at the time, but I don't really like now. And to answer Emma's next question, yes, I did get access to work. I think that's what it's called. They paid for transport for a while and a few other things. But it's a while ago, so I think it's changed a lot now.
How were the staff like? Is everyone like friendly and nice? Because sometimes you go into a workplace and some people can be a bit funny, can't they? Was everyone quite nice? And
Yeah, everyone was nice. And I've made good friends from it, and it was a good experience overall.
Would you have any kind of advice or kind of nuggets for people, young people that are potentially looking at going to uni or getting a job afterwards, that live with Duchenne?
I would get all advice you can get. I would use all the services you can get. Just ask questions and keep asking questions, and get the right thing set up for you.
And by questions, what kind of questions precisely? Because sometimes the hardest thing is knowing the right questions to actually ask, I think.
I think if you would just be yourself, but once you get a job, I'd ask questions about adaptations and help and support you can get to do your job.
Okay. We've got another great question coming from Emma. These are brilliant questions, Emma. Thank you. So her question is, did you find it difficult gaining employment?
I went for a lot of interviews, but I found the Inspirational was good. I got it quite quickly. But the other ones took longer. I just didn't get the flags and things like that. It's just typical things that happen.
And that's quite normal, actually, isn't it? You send out your CV to 50 places and 2 come back. That's kind of normal conversion, isn't it? On job hunting almost.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to hear how you kind of phrased. Did you kind of come out on your CV? Did it say, hi, I'm Bryan. I love this, and this, and I live with Duchenne?
No, I didn't mention it.
You didn't mention it?
No, I had the two ticks thing. I said one tick, but so they didn't really ask me the questions about disability, to be honest.
Okay. I think the lady next week's going to probably go into more detail, but I think there's obviously the positive discrimination, which is something that I'm sure quite a lot of companies like to employ people that have differences. I just wondered if you'd come across that, Bryan.
Not really. It's a long time ago, though. It's a lot of things I've forgot about it since then.
So, Bryan, I noticed you've got a football picture just behind you. What team do you support?
Okay, give me that button.
And are you a regular? Do you go along and watch many of the games?
As many as I can.
Do you have a season ticket?
Yes.
Lovely. That's what I like to hear. Fantastic. And do you go with your family when you watch the football?
I go with my dad, and I go with my dad and my brother to away games.
Oh wow! Okay, that's awesome.
Where's the furthest? Sorry, Sam.
No, you carry on.
I was saying, where's the furthest you've been kind of like travelling with football with the away, following the team, but also kind of personally?
Well, for football, a place called Brecon. It's probably the furthest I've been, which is about 2 hours away. I've also been abroad is Florida and Canada. I think those 2 places.
Is this where we can see some of your photos, Bryan?
I was just going to ask that, Bryan. Just so everyone knows, we were treated to a few of Bryan's pictures just before we came on this evening, and I'm itching to see the rest of them. Would you mind sharing them with us, Bryan, and telling us a bit about each of them as we go through? I think it'd be lovely to.
I can show you some. Anybody else get any questions just now first before we?
Yeah, what we'll do, obviously with each of these webinars, they've all been quite different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open everybody up and tell everyone, I'm going to unmute everybody, just so that you can just ask away, and so it's more of a general chat, if that's okay, and then we can do the pictures. Is that all right with you, Bryan?
Yeah.
Okay. We Sam and I, we've learned, haven't we, to become quite flexible on these.
Definitely.
Just to let everybody have their say. If you want to say anything, you got anything to ask, Trevor?
No. You always pick on me. I do love your hairstyle. I do love your hairstyle, though. I think it's quite cool.
Thank you very much. Quite cool.
Quite
very cool.
I
think you're trying to rival me for the second part of my Alan Carr show. That's what you're trying to do, isn't it, really?
That's what it is. Exactly. You rumbled me.
I always try to rumble you. No, I don't know. It's kind of difficult to ask sort of questions, but I'm just really just sort of supporting the charity as we can and doing our bit and trying to put a motor down here, which we are doing quite a good job of, and trying to raise as much money in all the boys' memories and doing it for John and all that. So I think if the boys can still live a full life, then that's good up for them, and the government to give them all the drugs and all that so they can do it, really. How about you, Lucy?
What about you, Lucy? I'm saying, where's Lucy?
No, I just think it's good to obviously say that there is older boys out there and that they are having a life and an impact, and this is why I like to watch the older boys and see what they do and really join in with them, because I think you can learn a lot from them and pushing forward. So,
okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Leanne? Well, she's getting her headphones out. She means business.
I'm good to go. I just heard the splints go boom boom.
You're lucky. My boys are here. Look.
Oh, wow.
Look.
Oh. No, I was like, bedtime. It's a bit early. Oh dear.
Have you got any questions, Leanne?
I did email a couple. I don't know if you received them.
Oh.
I just thought I'd get them in early just in case I couldn't speak during the thingy.
I haven't had anything. Oh no. Go for it. Can you? Have you still got? Do you know what they are? Don't worry, we can come back.
Oh, actually, hold on. I've got a reply from a Florence Bolton.
Oh.
I don't usually work on Tuesdays. You're welcome to call me if your query is urgent.
It's an automatic one.
It's an out of office.
Yeah. Okay, so my question was about, and I wanted to ask it when Toby's asleep. Bryan, how young were you when you knew what your diagnosis meant, sort of both in terms of kind of physical changes and your, you know, to do with the diagnosis? Because you know, I was speaking with Sam and we were saying how easy it is for children now to find out by asking Alexa and, you know, all sorts of things about Duchenne, and it kind of puts us as parents in a situation now where, you know, we might have to have conversations you know, quite young. How did you, you know, were your parents quite open with the diagnosis and what it meant for you?
They told me as much as they could, but I was quite young. The experience I felt was like it was hard doing things, hard going for walks and things.
I'm really sorry, guys. If someone's got really bad background noise, if possible, is it possible to put yourself on mute or just shout and I can mute you? Because it's quite destructive. Right. Okay. Sorry, Bryan, carry on.
But I noticed things like being hard to walk, get tired walking and struggling doing things. But it's more when I get a bit older, like I knew more about it than when I was younger, I would say. But you notice things like hard to walk, getting tired walking and things, falling quite a lot as well is what I've noticed. I remember noticing that as well when I was young. It's one of the big things I see. How's that?
Bryan, how did that make you feel at the time? And can you kind of give the advice to parents about how to kind of deal with that? How did your parents deal with that? Were they quite open? Did they wait? How did you kind of discuss it? Did you find out from them or?
They're quite open, but we try to keep life as normal as possible, I think, more than making a big deal of it, if that makes sense. We try to just get on with it rather than worry about it. I'd say that.
And how successful do you feel that kind of was as a kind of parenting style? Did you feel?
I felt like that I wasn't different, if that makes sense. I all had my issues that I felt like my old dad tried to raise me like any other kid, like my brother, really.
So Bryan, does that mean that, you know, your brother, he doesn't have Duchenne?
No, he doesn't.
Right, and is it just you and him growing up?
Yeah, it's just me and him. Yeah.
Right.
Because
Okay.
my mum decided not to have any more kids at that point as well. So it was just me and my brother growing up.
Did you get on well as kids?
Just the way normal kids get on.
Yeah. What's the age difference? The age gap?
3 years.
So is he younger?
He's older.
He's older.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's exactly the same as my boys. That's really interesting. So was he really, really protective of you?
I would say a bit, yeah, but of course I went to a different school because of access issues. We didn't really go to the same schools, and that's something of that kind of them issues cropping up at school.
Did you enjoy school?
No, not really. I did, but then I had to move school, which was about 20 minutes away, so that wasn't as good.
Okay. So you preferred the school that was nearby?
I preferred to be near the house because of the way buildings were then.
Right.
But now I could go to any schools down here I wanted, so it's a lot different now.
Okay.
And Bryan, did you take? This is a bit of a personal question, but did you take steroids quite early on? Did you take steroids?
Only for 6 weeks.
Right.
but I didn't like them. But they weren't really, it wasn't really like it is now. It was more, you can take them if you want, but you don't really have to take them. Whereas
Okay.
now it's, you've got to take them.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know
Okay.
if John and Mark were the same, but I think it didn't last. I didn't I'll do it for 6 weeks. I didn't like them at all. But
Right.
that was just how we found it.
Right.
I think it is still it's optional to my knowledge.
It is.
But I'm just interested to find out what your thoughts are on that. Is it something that is it a decision that so what didn't you like about them? Was it the way that it made you feel?
It's the hunger, but I couldn't cope with it. I couldn't cope with that. I was just too hungry. And I also think some of us that are a bit older don't really agree, well, me personally, don't really agree with how they use steroids, because I think, yeah, they're a good option, but I think sometimes it's kind of, you're not given a choice, it's like, and I think sometimes the side effects, I don't know, could be weighed up better than, and I'm sure you all know this, but it's how it can be weighed up better, because if people get problems with their bones or their weight, I don't think it's fair either.
No.
I think it's a better way of going about it.
And it's also very difficult, isn't it? Sorry, Leanne. It's also really, really difficult, isn't it, that the parents are made to make the decision often because it's kind of a lot younger, and there's a real anxiety, isn't there, as a parent making the decision for your child when actually you want to give that child the choice.
It's kind of like the steroids. It's kind of like choice of ventilation, choice of tactics and stuff. That's quite important, but it's quite a varied answer to what you want to do. I think there's good bits and bad bits about it. I think you've got to weigh up what's best, I think.
Like I found, Brian, that my little boy, he was still in infant school, and they kept sort of saying he should be on the steroid, he should be taking steroids now, and I managed to hold off for a year, knowing that that wasn't really what I wanted for him. And I've said this before in webinars, but I was a nurse. I used to be a nurse, so I kind of knew that what the long-term effects were and what the side effects could be for him, and yet I still felt a little bit as though each time we were at an appointment, it was like we were strongly advised to go on the steroids, and almost like you feel kind of you get made to feel like why are you not doing it, why are you not doing what we're suggesting? But actually it's not really a suggestion, it's they kind of put you in this position, and I really didn't want that. And it's encouraging to see that actually you've not had them, and here you are 42 years later, and you're here to tell the tale, really, the story. It kind of makes me feel as if I made a good decision at the beginning, and I've gone back on it and he's on them, and I'm like, maybe I
don't know whether I could answer this question, but would mutation type affect how steroids work, or if it's the choice of steroids? But I don't know the answer to that.
This is where we need Neil.
No.
And I'm sure he would be able to give a fantastic scientific-based answer. The answer that I can say is I don't know the answer. All I know is what everybody knows, which is that you can have two brothers with the same deletion, both completely different, both can present completely differently, and one can be affected by steroids and one gets on fine with steroids. Sam's nodding. I'm hoping I'm saying the right thing, but I think that's the issue, isn't it? It's so difficult.
It's quite complicated, I think.
It is. I think it is a difficult decision, and it's one that all of all the families find difficult, because you're making a decision based on the information that you have at the time, but you can't see into the future, and you can't see all of that side of things. And I think that's what's particularly difficult, because you almost want somebody just to tell you the right way, like, this is what you should do and this is how you should do it, and this is, whereas that information simply doesn't exist. So it is very much at that moment in time, and that's what you're basing your decision on, and it's a real tough one. It is a real tough one.
I would say to everybody, it's my opinion, it's maybe not necessarily right, but it's just what I think about steroids, really.
And I think absolutely that Neil, our head of research, would say the same. And he said to us before, hasn't he, Sam, that whatever decision you make as a parent is always made with your child's best intentions at heart, and is made with love, because you always do the very, very best for your child. So a child and young person, I hasten to add. I'm also very interested to hear about the choices that you've made, Bryan, in your own care. So trachea, those kind of things.
I think I've seen this with trackies. In Denmark, they would say it's a decision they would make for most people, trackies. But the problems with trackies are the care aspect, getting their care paid for, is the biggest problem with getting a trachea, I'd say. Because you need 24/7 care, you need somebody within earshot of you at all times. So I think steroids and different things, a bit like that. So that's a big decision. But I think with ventilation now, I probably would have got a trachea till a bit later, because of SIP vents and most masks and different things that we've got now that didn't have then.
Sorry, Bryan. So you said you prefer to have the mask?
No, I'd say
Have the trachea later.
I think
later
now,
on in life.
I think now the technology is advanced enough that you can have different choices than just the trachea or nothing, I think.
How old were you when you made that choice?
42. 32. And that, my lung collapsed and I had to, that was my choice. It wasn't the other choice, it was just, you need it kind of thing. So the best advice at the time. But I'd say before that, before having the trachea, I'd probably said no, but after having it, I'd probably said yes. It's one of those, in hindsight, you would do it. But I think with SIP vents, especially, they're really good, and I would advise everybody to try and get them as soon as they need them. But I've seen the difference it makes to some people, though, and they're a great invention, a great piece of the technology to delay getting needing a mask all the time and different things, as you can see. In John Hastie's picture, he's got a SIP vent, I believe. And you can see it on one of the windows.
So Bryan, I've had a question come in. What age were you when you started to make your own decisions around your own care? Or maybe there's two parts of that. What age did you start making the decisions, and what age do you think you could have started to make your own decisions? Is it different?
I think I could have probably done it younger, but we started making joint decisions around about when I was 28, 27. When I first started having care options and different things. But before that one, parents just done it. But I think you'd make these decisions younger. Some people, it depends how you feel. It depends what the decisions you've been asked to make are.
And do you have a good relationship with your parents?
Yeah, really good relationship.
That must make it easier.
Yeah, it does, but sometimes you'd want more a proper mum-child relationship than a care relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice can you give to parents who are, or parents and carers of a young person and then an adult with Duchenne? Is there any advice you can give to us about, what, I don't know, letting you get on with things and giving you space, or because it's a really hard balance for us as parents.
I like to try and give a good balance between that, parents, and giving you space. I also think parents should just keep pushing, keep asking questions, and don't take no for an answer, because quite a lot of people try to tell you, though, I think you've got to just keep pushing.
So do you feel that parents that are a bit more kind of belligerent almost, does that kind of rub off on you and makes you more kind of, you get your own way because you've been kind of almost shown how to do that? Or do you think it goes the other way?
I think experience shows me you've got to fight for most things more than, because you won't get them unless you push. I've found.
Absolutely.
What kind of person does that make you become? I think that makes, from an outside, it makes you become a very strong person. Do you feel strong? Or?
Sometimes, but I think it comes from my mum, my dad, how I am, I think. It's just sometimes you've got to, things happen, you've just got to keep fighting, I would say.
I think I might write that down on my board. Things happen, you just got to keep fighting. That's my big takeaway for this session.
Yeah.
Bryan, I know that you're into your tech, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm really interested in you telling everybody. Firstly, obviously, take us through your photos and some of your lovely life experiences, but also, I'm really interested in this camera, this what's it called? Photograph thingy. It's amazing.
It's a Polaroid lab. You can above my head. You can see the wall printed out. Just be Polaroids of people.
So you put your phone in and it prints off the Polaroid pictures from your phone.
Yeah.
I love it too.
Hashtag
Me
Father
too.
Christmas.
Gonna get it. Bryan, do you know anything about the iCloud? I so need to find out about how iCloud works and stuff.
It's easy. You can. I could get one of to get in touch with me. I can talk you through it if you want.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
But
if you could.
I've got another thing I want to say about adaptive technology.
Yes, please.
Quite a lot of good stuff out there. I've got a possum which works my bed, my TV, and different things, which NHS provides in Scotland and over England. I've got a soft touch wheelchair, and I've got a Tekla which works my phone, which is good.
And you got all this from your your battles against being told you couldn't access them or couldn't get them.
I got these things quite easily,
right?
Eventually, but the Tekla, a charity up here paid for. But it's quite good. It works your phone with just a button, so that's quite good.
Okay.
And the soft touch wheelchair's great. It's easy to control.
It's so wonderful to hear that you've got.
Sorry, Leanne. What was that? A soft touch?
A soft touch controller for a wheelchair.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I just think it's so wonderful that you've been able to, get these things, to make your life easier and, and more kind of, accessible and all the rest of it. It's really encouraging. You're really inspirational, and it's just amazing, to meet you and hear these things.
Thanks. There's a lot of good tech out there that you can use from very early age. It's just getting the funding for it, which is easier in some places than other places, I'd say.
Yeah, it's almost
Good.
like a postcode lottery. You sort of find that out as a parent. You find out these things, you know, when you first, you know, get the diagnosis and you come to terms with it, and then you're kind of on a mission to try and make your child's life easier as you can. And you know, it's good to find to know someone that's kind of you know, been able to get your hands on these things. So you know.
There's a great charity up here called the Island McCallum Trust, and they just provide equipment for Duchenne kids and adults. They've been really helpful. They've given me about £4,000 over the last 8 years.
Wow.
And do they help you choose the equipment as well, or do you go to them knowing what you want, Bryan?
You just go to what you want and say, "Oh, I need this." You will always say, most will say, yeah, that's okay. You just apply and they give send you money once you've passed the application process. But it's a good charity. It's run by an actress up here, and her 2 grandsons have got Duchenne. She did I don't know if you've seen it, there's a BBC Scotland programme where she goes to Denmark and see how they deal with kids with Duchenne. You can get it on YouTube, it's quite interesting.
I'd be interested to add that charity to, we have a list of third parties that we signpost people onto, Bryan, if they've got specific kind of questions. So if you can, when we're done, pop that over to Sam and I, and we'll pop it on there, because that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Do they fund people in England as well? Or is it just
Scotland.
I wonder what else there is similar in England.
Yeah, but that's a good charity. It's one of the best ones for getting money out of, I think.
It just shows there are pots out there, aren't there? You know, if there's something that you
just got to find them.
Yes, yeah.
I'm quite fan of a few, but there are some that help.
And Bryan, you've also been doing some, well, you've not been doing some, you've been our lead contributor over the past few weeks since lockdown, haven't you? And been coordinating with our contributors. So I know it's you know, a volunteer role. How has that made you feel doing that, and being obviously part of our webinars and things like that as well?
It's been quite good. It makes me feel a bit useful, and it's been interesting learning things and meeting new people.
I think it's so helpful I can see in Leanne's face, I'm sure you'll probably agree with this, it's so helpful for us parents who are trying to do everything the best for our kids, to see an individual like yourself who has and is doing really well, and you know, it makes me really pleased, and I'm enjoying working with you, Bryan. So thank you for all your hard work for us.
Thanks.
Would you like to show us around your
Is there
pictures?
Anybody get any questions while I do this? I'll just show you some. I'll not show you them all because we've got loads of pictures. That's me as a cub. And there's about 8. I can still walk. I can see my splints down there as well.
Bryan, can I ask what age you came off your feet?
I was 16. I had that's me in the mascot. I was 16. I was still walking, and I had a second tendon operation, and it didn't work. So but then I was about 16. I was in 6th year at school. So that's my brother. That's me, my brother. Yeah. That's my dad. That's us at football.
Oh, that's a nice picture.
That's me, my mum.
Is that your mum?
Yeah.
Aw.
That's me, the famous modern footballer. That's me, Carol, who's on this. She's going to kill me if I show the picture. I can't see her just now. That's me, my dad playing the Xbox. That's me chilling outside in the sunshine. 'Cause it was
Brian, did you
hot.
say that lady was on the call?
Yeah.
Ah.
Have it. Cheers.
Give us a wave.
I
She's going to kill me.
Brian, do you know anybody your age with Duchenne?
I know people round about my age, but not to my age, really. I know Mark Chapman, he's 50. Lives in Edinburgh. I know John, I think he's a bit younger than me. I know Paul McGinley, he's from Scotland, he's 40. And,
Wow.
but he's doing the best out of everybody I know.
I think I might move to Scotland.
That's me, that's my cousin. That's me, he's a scout.
Wow.
Oh, that's lovely.
Oh my gosh, check out the Now CD.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Me and my cat.
Oh. And the yucca plant, because we're exactly the same age, you and I, Brian.
Yeah.
All that stuff, all the panelling on the cladding and the walls.
Yeah,
Lovely.
that panelling. I had that around my granddad's house. I remember that.
All you've got to say is that you had avocado
Bathroom suite.
sweet. My mum's on this call. She's nodding her head. Hi, mum. Avocado. And we were talking today about the soap that had the
Soap on a rope.
No, the soap that had the magnets.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The magnet soap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Awesome
Love it.
Lovely, lovely pictures. When did you go to Florida, Brian? How did you find it?
I've been twice. I went in 1988 and I went in 2005. It was good both times, but I didn't really like flying the second time.
Okay. Talking about flying, do you have kind of any hints and tips? I know that that's 15 years ago, but do you think things have changed?
I think the Eagle lift's the best thing I've seen in a long time. To get you on the plane without actually manhandling you. I don't know if you've seen them. I've got one in Manchester. I've got one in Edinburgh. It's that lift that goes up up the aisles of the plane, and it just hoists you in a chair. And it's quite easy, but it looks quite good. I fancy having a shot of that. But I saw it's a lot better now than it was then. I've also found that British airports are quite by the book more than the foreign airports, so that's a bit of an issue as well. Because I remember going to Florida and these two big guys just lifting me off the plane with no safety equipment or anything.
That's brilliant.
I know, Brian. I used to be a flight attendant. I gave up a while back now, but and I flew for a major British airline. You might be able to guess, but our training was never that good. We always knew from the coding whether or not the person could walk or was a wheelchair to the aircraft and then walk on. But we weren't given that much training around disability. I think that's obviously started to change with the 2001 Disability Act, but it just was really a case of who could like, you know, who at which end could help. But you know, I always, I've sort of shared this with a colleague in the past and said, you know, I used to find it quite scary because we didn't really know what we were supposed to do, you know, and yeah, I think that it's kind of given me an insight to actually realise myself, you know, when I'm taking my son on holiday and things, that, you know, although it's not bad now that he, you know, because he's on his feet at the minute, but you know, certainly sometime into the future, you know, we just don't know kind of what to expect,
But
you know.
yeah, but if you find the ego lift and find out what you're supposed to call it, that would be a good tip
Right.
for you.
Eagle lift.
I think
Thank you. That's really helpful. We went to Lapland with Make-A-Wish, and we landed, and they put the stairs up, and we luckily I was with my ex-husband. He's Pat there, and he carried him down the stairs, but we had no wheelchair, so they had to wait in the snow and things, and it was just like, what?
Yeah.
You know, we had no high lift to get us to the terminal, so it was like, you know, luckily he's quite light still, but
Yeah.
you know,
I
felt
remember
like,
my Make-A-Wish, they broke my wheelchair on the plane,
right,
so
yeah,
that's how bad it was.
yeah.
But it's a lot better now, but I think that lift's good.
Our only way of getting around the resort, which was obviously covered in snow because it was December, was these kick sleds. So, but nobody told us. Luckily, we're both quite physically fit, and we had to kick sled these boys, you know, around the resort, you know, with
Yeah.
Toby hanging on for dear life, up these really like slopey, you know, and
Yeah.
literally just kick sledding, you know.
Oh my
And that was
gosh.
Make-A-Wish having, and I'm not criticising them, but I'm just saying that, you know, if anyone wants to take that holiday to Lapland, just be warned that, you know, although there was there should have been some risk assessment done there, and I obviously fed that back, but it wasn't disabled friendly, even with ambulant boys, you know, because you need really super fit parents to do that.
I think a lot of times you get some experiences you just got to laugh about. Or
Yeah, it was
just get
laughable.
there's-
It was.
stories I
It was so like, you know,
yeah.
how the heck are we going to do this? It was laughable.
I've got so many stories of things I've had to me. People just wouldn't believe that it can happen, but I think most of us experience things like that anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just, you couldn't believe half the stuff that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
You know.
you couldn't believe half the good things that happen as well. Like
Yeah,
you booked
absolutely.
you booked tennis. I booked the Davis Cup a few years ago, and I got courtside, which I didn't know how I got it, but I just took it. It's just things that happen, but then just weird things happen as well. Funny things.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to take the rough with the smooth, I guess.
My mum said, a typical holiday scenario.
Yeah.
It's much safer staying at home.
Oh, honestly.
I've had some crazy things happen with football, but it's all good fun at the end.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
That's it.
We were building a habit of just like winging it and just getting away at the car parks and things just by saying, "Oh, we didn't know," and just acting stupid and getting the car parks we shouldn't get into, getting the places we shouldn't get into just because we just flag it. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
I think blagging it is definitely the best way sometimes. And then having a laugh about it.
Just go, "Oh, I didn't know I couldn't be here." Usually like, yeah.
Yeah. I think my tip for parents that, you know, when you first start out, you know, when you get the queue jumps at theme parks and stuff, and you get all these disgusted looks and tutting, you know, once you can get past that and you ignore it, you can then really kind of start using it to your advantage in, you know, in like you say, Bryan, in times where, you know, you kind of got to blag it a little bit and wing it, but not, you know, not in a bad way, just in a way that, you know, people with disabilities, you know, should have a bit more, you know, a bit of priority in situations. But, you know, you really do have to like grow that thick skin, and kind of, you know, just kind of ignore, because they don't know what you know, what your family have, and, you know, what we have to do and things. So
That is true.
I agree with Lucy Allen's comment a bit.
Yeah.
It's not getting passed on.
So Lucy, thank you, Lucy, has said you have to be careful because sometimes airlines know, but messages don't get passed on. They said to Trevor, what you doing putting me. Do you want to say it, Lucy? Trevor?
Yeah, they were like, because obviously we told them that we were both going on the holiday because we were going on Spain. We went with EasyJet, and we were booked all in like within the know. And then when we get to it, and I had to like fold the wheelchair up, and they were all looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, she can't walk. She can't do anything. I have to lift her out of the chair, put her in the chair, then go back and collapse the chair." And they're like, "Well, now what are you doing with it?" I was like, "Well, you have to put it in the hold, but you have to make sure it gets safely to the other end, because if that wheelchair doesn't work, then how's she gonna move?" And they're like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And then when you get to the other airline, it's totally different, because then they came, because when we went to Spain, they came like with a mobile unit to the end of the plane, and there was a wheelchair fully there ready to go, so it was a lot easier, and they like put it all together. Whereas this side, and like Gatwick and that, they're like, "What are you doing? Who are you?" You know, it's just,
That's crazy. Have you travelled from places which are kind of better, guys?
It's difficult, because I don't know, many of you know, but for me and Lucy to go places, we need personal assistance. What with our care agency, they can't come, and even with the personal assistance, they have to be technically hands off, because they are not getting paid to come with us. They have to do it as a friend, or else we can't go away. So everything on that holiday, apart from getting Lucy dressed and everything, is down to me. So, you know, when we sort our holiday out, Lucy books it through them, but with the transport there and everything else, we do that all manually. Like when we went to Spain, we got a bus down to Maidstone town, a train from Maidstone to London, a train from London to Gatwick, and then in that way. And then when we got to Spain, we done 2 trams and a walk. But that was because of my fixation of public transport and us thinking, well, hang on, we don't want Lucy's car left at the airport because of damages to the car and stuff like that. And I thought, well, why not just do it the cheaper way? And it was cheaper by getting the trains and then getting a £5 tram ticket to all the stops and just walking. Oh, I got quite a fit. With all the walking I'd done, I got an amazing picture of me trying to push Lucy in one way and pulling a suitcase behind me. but as you and Sam would know, me and Lucy go together like that. We only just need the other people really to support us on what we cannot do.
You two are, I was just thinking to myself, you two are just like one person merged, really, aren't you?
Absolutely.
I was just saying to Sam in the chat, you two are gorgeous.
We do try and do a lot of things. All right, to myself, this COVID thing, I struggle with because of my Asperger's, and I don't like covering faces. So me and Mars don't go, whatever. You know, I don't mind.
Well, we're working on it. They will.
We're doing like those plastic face shields. You know, I'm okay with them. But covering your face, you know, boys' masks I'm okay with because you can see their face. But with these other masks that they're telling you to wear, you can't see. And then, you know, it's just, for me, it's just bad. So I just ignore public transport whatsoever and just walk. All right, I'll walk to Morrison's and that's like a 40-minute walk. But as you two know, if me and Lucy come up with if we come up with a problem, like getting to an Acting Duchenne conference, we're like, right, how do we get there? Right, it's 2 trains, 2 buses, or we could get a carer's car. We sort it out sort of rigorously. All right, we may end up late because of me. But that's just how we roll. But, we just try and do it when we're coming up to Action Duchenne, we're doing that for the boys and promoting the message like that. So it's just the way we are.
Oh, I don't know.
And we're always very, very always pleased to see you and always very grateful as well.
That's what you make it, Trevor.
Yeah, I think I'm a lot more proud of myself with being an ambassador of Action Duchenne. I think that the carers now down here have said that clarity obviously seems to mean a lot to you two, and it does. No one down here forgets that.
Anyway, it just turned into Trevor show.
You get very shy, don't you, Lucy?
No, I can show with you.
Where are you guys, Trevor and Lucy?
We're in our own adapted flat in Maidstone.
We're in our home in Maidstone.
Oh, in Kent.
Yeah, we get carers 3 times a day, but 16 hours of the day. I'm Lucy's full-time carer. All right, a lot of people may not know about me, but I'm blind in one eye. I've got glaucoma, and there's one day that I'm going to go fully blind. But because I walk, social services will put it all on me until I can't see no more.
But that's all right by me.
When you get that answer, this is why I'm so strong.
Does he massage your feet, Lucy?
Oh,
does he massage your feet?
He's got a foot fetish, so we don't leave him alone.
Toby got a foot massage just before he went to bed. He was loving it.
Oh.
I've shown him how to use a pumice stone today on his dry feet. He kept going on about his dry feet. So he's sitting in the bath doing a little pumice stone, and then he got a foot massage.
Oh. But I know with some airlines also, there are, because I saw back, I think it was about a year ago, they were trialling in putting some wheelchairs onto the actual plane, and so the person doesn't have to get out. So I don't know what's happened with that.
We did have those, Trevor, put on, and they're the if you can imagine, the lightest little frame of a chair that fits down the aisle, and it was just ridiculous. It was like, it was literally just to ferry someone from that sort of front of the aircraft to their seat. But then there was kind of no real, it wasn't.
No.
If you needed your own chair, it doesn't really suit everybody. But I think that was their effort towards, and it used to live in the wardrobe and things. So, and that's me short haul. I don't know what long haul were like.
I don't always feel very safe.
No, we often got that complaint because you couldn't put any arm. There was no arms, so you just kind of had to get people to put.
I can support myself a bit, but if the boys can't, then.
Because when we go to the hotels, a lot of them say, "Oh, we got the evac chairs to take people down." Well, Lucy doesn't feel safe in that, so we then say to them, "Oh, Trevor will get me out and carry me down 4 flights of stairs."
Yeah.
So let's
But thank you for that little. I just
a little bit of a share.
Yeah.
No, it's nice. It's lovely. Thank you, guys. Just a question for Bryan. Sam and I were just thinking about what your favourite place that you've visited is, and also what has been your kind of favourite experience, I guess, in your life, actually. I know it's a really hard one to say, but what are you most proud of?
The place I go is when I go on holiday. A place called Diddleton in East Lothian. I really like going there. It's nice, and I go there with my mum and dad and my brother, his wife, and my niece. So I really enjoy going there. I think I proudest moments probably getting my degree, getting my job. I think I was my two. I see Lisa put my thumbs up down there. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Brian. I went to uni with I went to uni with Brian.
Oh, thanks for joining us. You're really welcome.
Hiya.
Hello. We've just been having a general chat, really, haven't we, Brian? It's been lovely.
Yeah. What else did you ask? I forgot.
So you've covered what you're most proud of. What's your favourite experience in your life?
A lot. I've got certain football games, going to see big concerts, but things like that.
Tell us more about the concerts.
Go to see. I went to see Coldplay 3 times. That's the last time was the best one I've seen. It was in a big stadium. So that was good.
Can I come next time, Brian? I'm a massive fan.
Yeah.
My mum's just said she loves it as well. She's put her arms out. I think we should have a massive trip.
Can we do
post-COVID.
Can we do a make a wish to get behind the scenes to a Coldplay concert?
Yeah.
En masse.
Vicariously. Action Duchenne, make a wish. The whole lot of us.
Things like that.
Yeah, post-COVID.
Things like that. Special. I like doing things like that. A bit different, a bit special as well. Also went to a motor race in Seville. When that was my week of wish. Is MD let's get kids over 16 heard of the Willow Foundation? That's a good charity. It gives people between 60 and 40 a special day as well.
What was that one, Brian?
The Willow Foundation.
Willow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Another one for the list. I can see Sam scribbling. Thank you, Sam.
we did do it in Glasgow for that.
Oh.
I think maybe, Brian, you should probably give us a list of all of these good places that we can recommend to people.
Yeah. Any other questions you've got?
Oh. Any questions? Alexander, you've been very quiet this evening. Would you like to ask anything? No? Or add anything? I'm not going to ask my two because it'll be rude, I'm sure, what they are. They'll just say rude words.
Brian, I've got one more, and it is a little bit personal. Do you know your deletion?
Well, me and Lynette have had this conversation.
Right.
I don't know it. We can't find it, and it's in my
Right.
it's in my children's records, which are somewhere in Glasgow where we can't find them yet.
Right.
They're somewhere in Glasgow, but I don't know where.
I hope you don't mind me asking that. It's
No.
just that because of your age, I think I'm. It's like I'm kind of like, wow, you know.
Something said to Lynette, it might be interesting to see what mine, Mark Chapman, John Hasty, people over 40, see what their deletion is. I think that'd be, see how similar they are. I think that'd be a good thing to look at.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody's done a study on it just to sort of find out, you know, because, you know, you are at that upper age of, you know, I don't know, interest.
Yeah.
You know, it's certainly. I feel like I feel a bit reverent. Like,
yeah. No. Leanne, as soon as whenever I meet anybody that's doing really well and living an awesome life, first thing I ask is, so what's your deletion? And that's a compliment meant in the most sincere way.
Absolutely, me too. You know,
I think it's a good thing to look at.
Yeah.
The four people I mentioned are all Scottish as well.
Yeah. That's why I said I'm moving to Scotland. We're actually moving in 5 weeks' time, but I'm thinking maybe we shouldn't go to Winchester. Maybe we should just head up.
I think it must be something in the water.
Yeah.
I think it's something you should look at.
Yeah, definitely. I think, maybe you should lead the study, Bryan.
If somebody can find my neck or something, that'd be a good start.
40 and fighting fit.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I could see find
me too.
my big file, wherever it's went.
Yeah,
Does anybody else
good
have any
idea.
questions at all? I see Celine's just joined us. Good evening, Celine. You're very welcome to unmute and say hello. We're just having a general chat, really. It's very nice.
Oh, hello all. Hi, everybody.
Hello. In case anybody doesn't know Celine led the Taking Charge project a few years ago and was instrumental in setting up scores and scores of young people with Duchenne, with aspirations, the ability to make their own choices, to live independently. So we kind of all hail Celine. So you're very welcome, Celine.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just interested because I know I've been listening to the piece that Bryan's been doing, and all this good information is about raising expectations really across the board, isn't it? And we're still finding so many young people who no one's asking them, when you think of being 25, what do you hope you're doing? Everyone's still focused on the things that are important for today, but unless you set those expectations really early, that there will be a future and you can plan for it, then it gets left behind. And we know that from the piece of work that we did. So, whatever we can do to remember within the Duchenne community to keep the aspirations for the future out there.
Here.
Yeah.
Bryan, how do you feel that you've kind of made your own path with those aspirations, or do you feel it's something your parents have set for you, or is it an internal thing for you?
I think it's mostly me setting my objectives. Really, the time to do my best I could.
How have you done that, Bryan? Have you got some practical kind of tips for us as parents to instill in our children, or to help our children to understand that?
I'm not too sure. I just kind of focus on what to do. Really, that's a hard question to answer.
It is. Have you always kind of made plans for the future, or are you a bit of a kind of fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy? Because
A bit of both, I would say. Sometimes I plan, sometimes I just see what happens.
do you think you're quite laid back, quite chilled out, but also driven when you want to get something done?
The three people I know can answer that alone. I think I'm quite laid back.
Lisa's nodding. Lisa?
Quite determined when he wants to be as well, particularly going through university and all the kind of additional things that I had to kind of do to get to do his full 4-year course at university, and then on top of that to then go on and get employment, along with going to job interviews and getting flat tires on your wheelchair and things like that. He's always been really determined and focused with kind of what he's wanted to do.
Lisa, you missed the bit we were talking to Bryan earlier on about his time at university. Can you tell us about how you guys met? And is it headphones on? Okay. That means business.
We met just again. We were in the same class at university, and we kind of just with a certain group of friends that we were just all drawn together, and we just supported each other through different. I mean, obviously, I'd maybe things that Bryan supported me through university as well. Sometimes he had to rein me in when I was getting worried about a piece of coursework. Bryan was always there to kind of give me a wee bit of talking to as well. And just he's a really great guy. He was always kind of positive, I would say, in terms of kind of things that he had to do and the things that the additional things he had to overcome. I'm really proud of him. I'm really proud to be his friend.
Thank you.
Mm.
Does anybody else have anything to add? Or Celine, please go for it.
I'm just putting on my video, but you'll have to excuse my hair. And where are we?
I have to excuse your hair. I'm the one with the blue hair. Your hair looks lovely.
Lovely to see you,
Everyone's got fun
Celine.
in their hair.
I suppose the question that I had for Bryan was, when you were much younger, did you have role models of older people with Duchenne that you could look to and think, well, if they're doing that, I could do that as well, or I could do even more than that?
No, I don't have any. None.
You didn't. So that's what's incredible, that you've achieved what you've done without having the role models out there. So I think crucially as well, you are one of the role models now that young people and their families can look to. And you know, we had Mark Chapman's 50th birthday last month.
Yeah.
You know, to be in the UK living with Duchenne at 50 is incredible, and not enough people know that that's still a possibility. And how Mark has managed to get there and how the other adults have managed to get there and what they're doing is crucially important to share, because no one should be reinventing the wheel. If there are people who have been able to achieve things, and we need to know what it was you did, how you did it, and how other people could be supported to do something similar.
I think part of my life has been work as well. I have to say, me and Mark, it's a bit of luck as well.
Yeah, there's always luck.
Yeah, I think our trackies help us.
Yeah.
But I know that's a bit of a subject for a lot of discussion.
Well, you see, I'm pleased that you've brought that up about the question of tracheostomies, because it feels a bit of a taboo subject still that we can't talk about. You and Mark are the age you are in the UK, and you just happen to have tracheostomies. You know, is that?
I think the problem is the care aspect's a big problem. Get 24/7 care for having a trachea is the hardest thing. And that's why they avoid it.
Aye. That's not the reason to not keep lobbying for it.
But if you look at Denmark, they've all got, I think 90% of them have got tracheas.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they're good lives.
Yeah.
But it's all to do with money, unfortunately.
Yeah. And of course, you know, we're not privy to the conversations that are going on within the health profession, but they can see the adults who are coming through, who are going to be, you know, living fuller lives with support. And, you know, they will know as well that, you know, a lot of this will be down to thinking again about treatments that are working and what people are achieving, and, you know, relationships, families, jobs, the whole package. And, you know, I wasn't in earlier when you were talking, but, you know, maybe you were among the people who were told to go home, and you know, it'll not be, you won't have that future, and you've proven that not to be the case.
I'd have to say my consultant, Dr. Barham, and the consultant, Dr. Davison, now are very supportive, very positive people, and they always did their best for me. I have to say, though, if everybody else has ever know what it's like in England, but in Scotland, it's the spiritual team that keep me going more than anybody else. They support you the most. I don't know what it's like in England that way.
Yeah.
I think the track is a good thing, but I think the COVID crisis is not going to help matters that way.
Celine, what kind of, from your experience, obviously through the taking charge and in your, you know, your career, you know, what have you got any kind of comments on that, on kind of the positivity? Because we all, as Duchenne parents, when we're supporting other Duchenne parents in our job, actually Duchenne, Sam and I always say, you know, we know that the families that are keeping positive and doing really well and coming out and finding information and, you know, kind of talking and keeping it positive are the ones that the children kind of seem to do better. Do you think that's true? And you know, what I know why, but I want to hear your why, really.
Oh, it's there's no straight answer to that, but you're right. There is a correlation between the families who are able to embrace meeting with older adults, because that's a really scary thing to do. It's really scary. It's really big. And then talk with them and find out about their lives. And I've had families say to me, you know, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I didn't want to, because they didn't want to think that about the future to that extent. But once they talked to them and realized what good lives they had, I thought, oh, what you mean? It could be a bit like that. And even better, the young people, 14, 15-year-olds, meeting adults in their 20s and 30s and 40s. I tell you, they all were changed, because whether you think it or not, they have imbibed this information about, oh, what's going to happen. And then to meet people in their 20s and 30s that are doing things that they thought they couldn't do. You know, I go back to the e-banks and Aaron Ebank, hearing that he might be able to drive a car. And I tell you, within a year, he had driving lessons, and he had mobility, and he was driving his car. You see what I mean? It's about you have to go out of your own bubble to find out what's going on out there. And it's incredibly challenging and scary, but it's also reassuring. But that's not to minimize what's involved. It's still, it's phenomenal what you have to do to achieve that. But just knowing that it might be possible gives people a bit of a boost. And
you know, Celine, it's very interesting what you were saying about the driving, because I'm fixated on getting a car for Samson on his 16th birthday, doing exactly what the Maurices did for Toby. On his 16th birthday, Kate had a car outside of school waiting to pick him up, because in a world where you're kind of used to sometimes coming last to things, to be first to pass your driving test, brilliant. That's so, it sets the expectation, doesn't it? It sets the bar. Like that's a good message.
But actually, that's normal. It's normality. See, all 16-year-old lads are thinking about driving lessons. You know, it shouldn't be. It's about, okay, so what is it that people want to do normally? Well, what would we have to be doing differently to make sure that that was achieved? I remember one of the sessions we had in Taking Charge years ago, and we had, people who were driving, people who were married, people who had babies, people who had, and literally, I don't know if some of you were there, but people's mouths fell open. They just didn't know it was possible. And so you just have to this has to be everybody's focus, whatever organization you're in. You just have to be communicating widely that all of this and more is possible. Because then families figure out what they're going to do. Every one of the families who kind of decide, we're going to do this, we now know it can be done, and it gives them another focus. It's just brilliant, and that's important. And then that creates a buzz within the community. Everybody who does something for the first time, Mark Chapman, 50 for the first time, it's brilliant. The families, the people who've been in contact with Mark who've said, that has given me such a boost, such an injection in my arm today, you 50. I mean, you can't lose sight of that people need to know that the future can be great. And it will be really challenging. Of course it will, but it can be great. And that's what we have to focus on.
Yeah, I think Mark's a good inspiration. I've met Mark and talked to him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I want to do all things as well.
Yeah. They're all an inspiration. I mean, even the fact that they run their own charity, that is, as adults, speaking for themselves, telling the world what it's like, and don't underestimate the amount of effort involved in that. And it's not happening anywhere else. But, with the support of the wider community, that's a brilliant thing out there to be able to say, look, there's adults who are kind of really taking charge of their lives. They're off doing their own thing. And we need to be supporting that, and we need to be encouraging it, and we need to be celebrating it. Because, families want to hear from people with the lived experience. Parents want to hear from people who are parents because that's their lived experience. But the people with the condition, there comes a point when their parents just don't cut it. That's the honest to God truth. Their parents just don't cut it. But people with the lived experience cut it. And that's who they need to be in contact with. People living with this condition. And then parents, you know, I had to say it, sometimes parents just have to kind of back out really and support them to kind of get into their own bubble as people living with this condition.
Can I say something interesting? We did in Scotland, we spoke with Pathfinders, the NHS and the local Glasgow hospice. We had a day last year which was for aimed at young adults with DMD and SMA. And I did a presentation and Mark did one, a few other guys did one just to speak to younger families and medical experts and our lived experience more and how it affects our lives. So that's something good we did up here. I think we're going to do it again next year, hopefully. That was a really good experience.
And Brian, that will have been life-changing. It will have been life-changing for the young people, and it will have been life-changing for the parents and carers around them. Yeah. I mean, I can speak from my own experience. My sister, who came from Northern Ireland, you know, my nephew at the time was 16, 17 years of age. And she came to a conference in London and she met adults in their 40s. And nobody in Northern Ireland told her that was possible. It just, it wasn't happening. And my nephew's 27. And again, I think he might be one of the oldest in Northern Ireland. And again, you know, she had to come to England to find out that you could get Motability and you could get, none of these things were being discussed because it was accepted that, well, that wasn't going to happen. And to be honest, as a family, we all accepted it as well. I only got introduced to Duchenne, you know, the organizations around Duchenne, when I was, you know, coming out of retirement in school, because we as a family had accepted, oh, well, this is the way it's going to be. And then thankfully I met Janet and I kind of found out what the reality was. And I went back to Northern Ireland and said to my sister, did you know this is possible and this is happening? And she said, no. I said, well, you've got to get yourself to England. You've got to get yourself to this conference and see it. And then seeing adults, it was like, and we have a funny story, but, you know, she went back to the hospital in Belfast and she said, we want ventilation. You know, Mark Brenton wants ventilation. And they went, we haven't done that yet. We've never had that. And I kid you not, they were sorting Brendan's ventilation out a couple of weeks before they were going to be delivering at the Action Duchenne conference a piece on respiration in Duchenne in Northern Ireland. He was their guinea pig. But because we'd invited them to come and talk at the conference about respiration in Northern Ireland, suddenly it was happening. But before that, nobody in Northern Ireland, it seemed, asked for or expected that was a possibility. I mean, that's just, and I hold my hands up to that. You know, he's my nephew, and I didn't know that's what was going on. So, and that's what happens. You know, we meet adults, we meet young people, we meet families, and we learn from each other. And then we each go back to where we're coming from, and we say, right, when I think of being 20, my son being 20, this is what I hope his life's going to look like. When I talk to him, I'm going to be asking him again. When you're 25, what do you hope is going to be happening? And whatever comes from that conversation, you hold it out as a real possibility. Whatever your internal things are about, oh, I'm not sure if that's going to happen, you keep that to yourself. You have to keep that to yourself, because if he's articulating, I think I'd like to do whatever, that's the route you're going in. And however approximately you get to that, then he'll know you're taking seriously aspirations for the future. Because what we also saw was lots of youngsters being squashed because the adults around them didn't really think it could happen.
Yeah. Can I just say there, Celine, you know, I think that just from, you know, the perspective
I'm
of
wondering,
being a parent.
Yeah.
That, you know, I think a lot of certainly what I perceived in the beginning sort of was you know, around the period where, you know, the diagnosis took place, and actually I feel really passionately about this, that, you know, if at that point of you know, the diagnosis, that some better information had been given about the condition, you know, that perhaps there wouldn't have been this such you know, grieving and trauma and, you know, and post-traumatic experience, certainly for me, that, you know, actually I felt that I had a lot of hope robbed, you know.
Yeah.
And I felt as though I had to grieve what my son may not experience and may not be able to do, and I was left to that, you know. I was left to that, to draw that conclusion from you know, from that time. And, you know, I wish at that point somebody had said to me, but actually there are people like Bryan, there are others who are doing this and this and this, and you know, it's not hopeless. And yes, also some support as well, but also, you know, yes, you know, but there is hope, but I think it needs to be given at that point, and not allow us to go through such a lengthy period of
so what you're talking
grieving
about
and
is
mess,
a project,
you know,
that, you know, between Action Duchenne and adults or whatever, going into the clinics and together facilitating. If Action Duchenne are working with families, newly diagnosed families, facilitating through the clinics that they get to meet, and it would have to be facilitated because it's a very difficult time. They get to meet adults and they could ask the questions of the adults. And what a brilliant coming together of two groups of people, because the clinicians have experience of the health aspects. Families are going through a trauma, they've got questions, but the people who can answer the questions are the people with the lived condition. So there's a project that's waiting to be done. I'll give you an anecdote. We were at a conference, Action Duchenne conference, and a family, newly diagnosed family, sitting at the table with me, circular table. And the mum was crying because, of course, it had taken a lot to get her there. And it was in the early stages of diagnosis. And she was in a very, very, very sad situation. And there was a break, and I was talking to her, and she told me that her diagnosis was very, very early, you know, 6 months or something. And I said to her, well, just a minute, do you see that guy over there? And I pointed, and Mark was sitting at the time, just at the table, talking away to people. And she said, yeah. And I said, well, that's Mark Chapman, and he's from Edinburgh, and he's, at the time, 44. And she just stopped. And I said, they didn't tell you that, did they? And she said, no. And I said, so if you thought your son might be with you when he's 44 and have had a good life. And it made such a difference. And at the end of the conference, she came to me and she said, I'm so pleased we had that conversation. Because she was going home with a completely different perspective.
Celine, as part of for Sam and I, and I'll answer on Sam's behalf as well, as part of our support call. So we speak to people literally on the day of diagnosis, the day after, you know, really, really very, very early days. And, you know, these phone calls can be an hour, they can be 2, we can spend all day. It doesn't matter. We are there, and we drop everything, and we are solely there for that individual. More often than not, it's the mum, interestingly, but sometimes it's the dad, or both. And on those calls, we literally go through, I would say, everything. But one of the main things that we talk about is lived experience that we've seen from older adults. So I'll talk about the nerves that I felt when I first met Ravi. When I went my first day in the job, I remember I wasn't worried about the job. I was worried about meeting Ravi, which is so ironic because he's just brilliant and hilarious. And I was so worried. But I tell them about Ravi. I tell them about the guys that have got kids, about the guys that are married, the guys that are homosexual, that are married to chaps, that are married to girls, that are married to, doesn't matter, that are living a life, that have travelled, that are travelling, that own businesses, that have sold businesses. Look at there's a guy who was in the travel industry who sold a business to a big travel company, and you can hear their entire opinion just shift, because all they've seen is what they've read, the LE, the expectancy, and actually that doesn't mean right now. No, there's much more to be, for much more future. And these guys that are now, like yourself, Bryan, 42, that's an amazing achievement when you're told something different at the beginning of diagnosis. But it should be normality. It should be just.
I think a lot's made out that number. There's a lot of delayed changing that number as well. It's for years it was 21 for too many years. It was 17 for too many years. It's been 28 for too many years. Is it 28 or whatever it is just now?
We always quote kind of late 20s, 30, but we try not to, because that's not something that it's not a real number.
The press are bad for it. If you see a story, that's in it every time.
Yeah. But I say we quote it. We try not to. We try to avoid at all costs. Try to set expectations higher, and it's more about living than numbers. For definite. Am I talking? Sam, you've been quiet. Chip in, love.
No. Do you know what? No, I have come off mute a couple of times and then just thought, I'll put myself back on because you're. No, I was just smiling to myself, remembering that I'd one of the first experience I had, I'd been with Action Duchenne for a couple of weeks, and actually, Celine, I came up to Newcastle to meet you guys, and you were doing a taking charge session up there.
Oh yeah, I've forgotten that. Yeah.
I've never forgotten it, and one of the things that I'll never ever forget is sitting in this room full of young men living with Duchenne, and one of the guys had made a video about all of the places he'd travelled to, and in this video you see him going over the big hill in San Francisco and doing this and doing that, and I just remember sitting there and just crying, just because I didn't think that was, I don't know what I thought, it was just all so overwhelming, and they were all of them individually were just so fiercely determined. Like when they were sharing their stories and their experiences, like they were fierce. I wouldn't have wanted to say no to these guys. Like they were just so amazing. It was just, I've never forgotten it. It was just absolutely fabulous, and it just brought back memories of it. Listening to you talking, and yeah, it was wonderful.
But we can't forget there are an awful lot of adults out there who still aren't achieving everything they could. We hear far too often about lives that are not being supported to be lived fully because of care packages, and there's all of this work to be done. For everybody has to be involved in that, because you're raising expectations, but you also have to give people the tools to get the life, and it won't be possible without the support. And so, in the current times that we're in, that support is going to have to be fought for every single day. And so we can't get away from that. And in a way, it would be criminal to be raising people's expectations without also supporting them with the tools around how do you get this package of support? Who has got it before you? What do they have to do to get it? Those very practical skills.
I certainly find it quite challenging, because I mean, you'll see Pat's in here, but we're not together. But as a single parent, a single mum, I'd quite like to give our sons indeed actually a good and sort of the influence of me going out to work, and not and I feel as though it's really difficult. It's challenging trying to broach any way of getting back into, you know, a working environment, to have, you know, to sort of show that actually, you know, like mum can have a normal life, you know, to sort of be able to, you know, get childcare or anything at this stage, because, you know, I've sort of, and it's, you know, it's obviously, it's a privilege to have this role, you know, but I've sort of taken on the, you know, the primary care role, and but equally, you know, I'd quite like to, you know, because our son does say, you know, when I'm big, I'm going to do this, and when I'm going to do that, you know, and I quite like to show him and through influence, you know, that actually that could be the case. But I've kind of, you know, I've been, and the thing is, you know, whenever you go anywhere, you sort of say, you know, I'm the carer, you know, so it's sort of become like I say I'm carer, and he knows he's, you know, and he's sort of, you know, just because obviously things are set up that way, you know, we have a disabled badge, so he's sort of, you know, he's disabled and carer, and it kind of, you know, and it.
Sorry, Leanne, how old is your son?
He's just coming up for 9, and he's still on his feet.
Yeah,
so
he's still,
you know,
still very young. But when we were doing transition stuff in schools, and as part of the transition, we'd say to young people, you know, again, when you think about being 25, what kind of life do you hope you live in? And of course, they'd say, I'd be in my own house, and I'd have carers. I might have my mum there. Or I'd say, do you really want your mum there when you're 25? You know, oh, well, if you didn't want your mum there when you're 25, okay, so how are you going to get ready for the day when your mum isn't going to be there when you're 25? Now, that was always challenging for them and for the parents. And so you'd look at, in transition, you know, where are the occasions when they might go away and stay overnight somewhere and have a bit of a break somewhere, so that they know that they can be cared for by other people other than you, because that's preparing for the future, that's preparing for adulthood. And then, you know, in time, getting a package of support, maybe a smaller package of support that allows you to employ your own personal assistant for your son. Maybe he's involved in choosing that person himself, and then he gets to go out with that person without you, gets to determine where he wants to go, he gets to say how he wants to get there. You know, very gradually over a period of time, over a number of years, you're developing the skills and the expectation, and relieving some of the anxiety around, oh, maybe I could be cared for by other people other than my mum and dad. And really, really you have to do that, because when we were working with Taking Charge, it was really sad, but I'm going to tell you what happened. A parent died of cancer, a mother died of cancer. And nobody in that family ever expected that was going to happen, and hadn't planned for it, of course. But that son had never been cared for by anybody other than his mum. And suddenly you're, in a way...
I must admit, that's exactly what I am. You know, I don't fear it, because I don't live my life in fear, but you know, it is a concern, because it's kind of, well, you know, we don't have a, Linda.
I'm Lynette's mum. Hello, dear.
Hello.
Just to say that, do you have any family members, like a mum or nanas and granddads and aunties and uncles?
Yeah, so myself and
would they be prepared to look after your one son at a time? I mean, I've over the last few years, I've been having the children before they went to school. I'd have just one child at a time, which is lovely for them, lovely for me, lovely for parents as well, and lovely for the other children, because they get a bit more time with the parents. And I found it, I was really worried about having Samson to come and stay initially, because I thought, oh my goodness me, you know, how am I going to cope? And in fact, he absolutely rose to the challenge, and he was completely different in my house. He was so much more independent. I was just I was quite shocked just how independent he was when he wasn't with his mum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leanne, really.
Yeah, we do a little bit of that. Yeah, we do a little bit of that, Linda.
You do more.
And
mum local?
I think it's she won't be coming up, but I think it's to do with as well, sort of both sets have had health issues themselves. So
Right. Yeah, well,
it's not.
that's fair enough. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, I absolutely, you know, sort of second what you say. You know, when Toby goes away, he's you know, it's surprising what he can do.
It's so lovely for you too, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's really important that you've got some sort of support there that will give you some time to yourself, because it is a massive struggle. I know how Lynette has struggled, and I feel that that's really all I can do. You know, I can support her from a distance, and especially at the moment, which is absolutely horrendous. But to have that time with the children individually, and not only for Samson to come and stay, that's lovely, but also I've had Leo lots of times on his own, and it's lovely for them. And I think it's, if you can do it, even if it's not your mum or your dad or your sisters and brothers, but just friends. I mean, I'm sure that do you have a close friend that you could? I think it's important that he actually
not really
goes away and stays away, not just, you know, child on a regular basis, but away to do something completely different.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And it's good for you too. You need that break.
I think sometimes half the difficulty is actually letting go.
Yeah.
When you perceive there's so much that the care is involved, but actually, you know, when I've found when I do take a step back, how capable he is. But you know, and it's but it's again, it's quite challenging to let go and kind of, you know.
And that is a metaphor for the whole of life, isn't it? I think, Leanne, and you know, certainly the first time I remember letting Samson stay at mum and dad's, I was, you know, primed and ready to come and pick him up, wasn't I, Mum? Just a bit of background. Mum lives in Kent, and I live in.
He never even mentioned
Cambridge.
Mum and Dad.
So
it's
a long way.
Mentioned you. Every day we said, "Oh, would you like to speak to Mummy on the phone?" He said, "No."
I get that. I get that.
And there's a lesson there. I think Celine was talking about kind of almost letting go and giving independence. Celine, was that from your experience something massive? Just to let you know, guys, we'll finish for 9:30. I think, Bryan, you've got to be off by 9:30, haven't you?
Yeah.
Tonight, yeah. So we'll just, so that you know, guys, we'll start wrapping up soon. But Celine, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, there was the Taking Charge, which was working with youngsters, but the program that ran parallel to it was as important, and it was the letting go, and it was the work with the parents. And in the initial stages, when we would meet individually with parents, and we would do a whole exercise with them, and as well as with the young people. And it was really, okay, let's envisage this. You know, your son's 25. Tell us what you hope he's doing, and all the stuff, all the hopes of what the son might be doing would come out. And it was, you know, it was like there would be lots of stuff would come out, and often it was very similar right across the board. And then you would very challengingly say, okay, so what are you doing today that's getting your son ready for that? And often it would be like silence. Yeah. So this is the independent adult, albeit with support, that you're hoping is going to be out there when he's 25. So what are you doing today that's getting him ready for that? Yeah. And sometimes it began with, instead of putting the clothes out on the bed that the youngster was going to be wearing that day, it was like, okay, well, you choose what you want to wear. Yeah. And parents of children who are not disabled often would not get away with, you know, still be dressing them at 9 and 10 years of age.
No.
This wouldn't be happening, because that 9 and 10-year-old who's able-bodied would be saying, I'm not doing that, that's not what I want to wear, I want to wear whatever. But somehow or other, sometimes disabled youngsters think, oh, this is easier for mommy or whatever, and this is what we'll do. And sometimes it is easier, that's the other thing. But really, that has to be, what am I doing if this is what I want, this is what I hope to see in the future, what am I doing today to equip my son with the skills, however small they are at this stage, to do that? You know?
And you know what, Celine, actually, you know, just touching on that quickly, because I know we haven't got much time, but, you know, for me, it actually took, you know, sort of a couple of years ago when I moved, when, you know, my husband and I split up, and, you know, we moved out of our home and sold it and that, and I took an OT to come round and say, so how are you getting how's Toby getting in and out of the bath? And I'm like, oh, I just lift him. And she's like, there's little steps you get, he can step onto that and step into the bathroom. All you have to do is just like support him, like, but don't do the lifting. And I was like, oh, can he do that though? Should he? And it was like, yeah. And so, just by putting those little, things in place, actually, he just starts it, but I think I kind of like I've needed to hear this tonight, but it's because it's taken time to get to this point, but actually to realize that I can revive those those dreams and wishes and aspirations for him that are his, and actually have some of my own, because they exist with my other child, so why can't they exist for for Toby,
Can I tell you something that came up with a group with a lot of them, but 2 or 3 that I can think of? They wanted, when they were young teens, they wanted to be able to come in from school with a key. They wanted their own key coming in from school. And parents were having apoplexy, and I could tell on their faces, it was like, oh my God. That was what they came up with, what they wanted, because for them, having a key to the house was you were independent. Because often younger children in the house had keys, and they didn't have keys. And somehow they knew that having a key meant somebody took me seriously as a young adult. And so we had to have this thing where people on the buses weren't allowed to let them off the bus unless there was an adult there to meet them. And so we had to have all this negotiation around, well, okay, well, could we just, assure you there'll be someone indoors, but he will let himself in. While he can still do that, he can let himself in the door. Yeah. I mean, that kid wore that key around his, that's my key, when I go home.
Yeah.
Really important.
I remember I was buttering some toast, for Toby, and putting some stuff on it, and I think I left it to sort of do something, and he turned around and he was there spreading it, and I went, oh, do you know how to do that? And he went, yeah, they let me do it at school all the time. And I'm like,
they've let me do it at school.
Or he says, I do it at school all the time, and I'm like, whoa, I'm just like, But I think it's like it's conditioning yourself to realize that, like, especially realize that I'm not a bad parent if I allow, if I just let him do it. It's not like, nobody's telling me I have to do it, and it's he wants to. So it's those barriers of kind of like life and things like but it's good to hear. It's good to be in this webinar, and Bryan, you're absolutely inspirational. Thank you,
Bryan. My mum said that she'd like you to write a book.
Yes.
So I know that you've started writing some kind of articles that we've been publishing, and I just love you to write more.
Yeah.
Please write a book.
Might take a while.
It's all right.
I'll come and type it for you.
Does anybody have anything they want to add?
Can I just say there, Leanne, you'll come and type it for him. The likelihood is he has voice, whatever, and he can do it.
He will. Or if he hasn't got one, that'll be these next on his list next to get.
I get it work yet. Find it. Can't get it work yet.
Oh.
If they get one last question.
Or anything you want to add, Bryan?
See if there's any questions first.
I know we've gone around, haven't we, this evening? We've really had a good old discussion, and I know I thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you all so much. Bryan, thank you for kind of starting us off on this journey. And I can see from the face it's been really impactful. So thank you. Thanks for joining us, Celine. That was an absolutely wonderful surprise, and I'm really pleased that you did, so thank you. And we're very Barry heavy this evening, I'm sure you've noticed. Lots of Barrys.
We're not related, any of us. 2 divorcees, and we're not related, are we, Celine?
Bryan, do you want to just give us a last nugget of your? Have you got an inspirational quote or a nugget for us before we sign off?
I couldn't find one. I would just say to every young kid or adult with a family with Duchenne, just keep fighting for what you want. That's what I would say.
And know what you want as well.
Yeah.
I think that's half the thing, isn't it? Know what's out there and what you want.
Eventually.
Thanks, Bryan. Thanks everybody for your contributions. Wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
Lovely to see you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.